Let's talk to Eduardo, who is calling to us from Brazil. Shout outs to Brazil. Brazil mentioned on stream.
Okay,
What's happening, Eduardo?
Yeah, I'm from Brazil, and what I wanted to talk to you about. By the way, the thing of love being blind, I got a kick out of it because I actually am blind. So
Oh
wow!
So love for you. I guess
yeah. There you go.
I got a hell of a kick out of that. Anyway, so what I want to talk about, I would probably be hated by theists and atheists, but it is a philosophy, sort of a hybrid between philosophy and religion that it's called Spiritism. I don't know if you ever heard about it.
I don't know that I specifically have, at least not in the way that you're discussing it. So hit us with it.
I'm going to Wikipedia. I see Spiritism, which links to Espiritismo, which is a term used in Latin America and the Caribbean to refer to the popular belief that evolved and less evolved spirits can affect health, luck, and other aspects of human life. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, somewhat, because there's an oversimplification. So the thing is, Spiritism, Allan Kardec, which is the French guy who came up with that, he claims to have the third revelation. But what is extraordinary about his claim is this: he explains away everything, not everything, but all sorts of contradiction in the Bible, the slave holding, the miracles, and he actually says there are no miracles. And there are no miracles because everything that happens is natural. What happened and we didn't know are things that we don't have the scientific knowledge yet. So, for example, Lazarus, he came back from the dead, but he didn't actually came back from the dead. He was in a I think it's called narcolepsy. People seem to be dead, and then they stay sometimes for days like that.
Yeah.
And people didn't know at the time, so they wrote about So
honestly,
he says that.
Not to interrupt you, Eduardo, but like at least what you're saying so far, that's not super controversial, at least for atheists. I think there are a lot of atheists that explain away stories like that. More broadly, specifically for the Jesus narrative, I don't even account most of those as even being real events. I just don't think a lot of the Bible describes like actual reality. But if you want to go that route and try to explain away like, oh, what really happened with like the Red Sea parting, for example, as some people do, like there are some naturalistic explanations you could point to for sure. So yeah, I don't think you're being that controversial, honestly.
Well, here in Brazil, we are sort of 3% of people who believe that. But the thing is, what it claims that everything happened, but we evolve. We as spirits evolve. And the thing that the language that was explained to us is because we were not sufficiently evolved. And people nowadays explain things like, for example, nobody 100 years ago would understand if we explain what an iPhone is.
Yeah.
That we can talk, like, for example, from Brazil to the United States.
Yeah.
So they heard that, and then they wrote it as they understood it. So, and the reason for the evil being together with the good is the question of free will. But interestingly enough, he doesn't think that Adam and Eve existed. What he says that we were exiled. Our people were exiled, and we were and the ages also, we were somewhat evolved, but we came to this planet that's primitive, and everything it had to be explained. I mean, if God didn't want to take our free will, and that's how it came up. The Bible came up, and some of spiritists they don't even study the Bible, which is not a very good thing in my opinion, because if it's the first revelation, that's the first and the second. So she has a book called The Gospel According to Spiritism, and it explains that, and that's the
Okay.
It kind of clicked for me because, yeah.
Well, why did it click for you? Tell me that.
Another thing.
What makes you, what about this ideology or this belief system appeals to you? What makes it convincing to you?
What appeals to me is that it doesn't have an hierarchy. I mean, there are no priests, there are no religious hierarchy. So because we've been reincarnated, because we believe in reincarnation, so it is very possible that a person that is just beginning has more wisdom than somebody who lives their whole life taught by this doctrine, and they not only say that we shouldn't have blind faith, they actually condemn blind faith. They actually says that we are here to improve our intellect and our morality. And the thing is, for example, the part that they say, a good man. I was studying that last week actually, and it's basically we can't. For example, I can't judge you for being an atheist. I can't judge a Muslim for being Muslim. I mean, everybody has the path to go in life. And that's what it clicks to me. That's what it clicked to me.
Okay. I definitely have some thoughts. I don't know, Sophia, if you want to talk, because I have some thoughts.
I mean, I think my initial thought is that, to me, it sounds like there are aspects that feel cool to you, that make sense to you from an emotional level, maybe. And I know that you're mentioning blind faith is bad, but I feel like I don't see any compelling reason to actually believe this. To me, it seems like another angle of, I like this idea. It makes life make sense to me, or makes these aspects of life feel all right. I'm going to choose to believe it. So I still am not getting to any, I am trying to listen carefully to see, like, where's the evidence for this? Is this evidence even come into play here? But it just kind of seems like another one of those beliefs that's just like, nah, I want to believe something. This seems cool. I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
I think. Sorry, you were asking him, not me, probably.
Oh, anybody answer.
Well, I just found out because, like I said, a spiritismo, but that it's actually different thing. This is Cardus' Spiritism. I found it because he mentioned the gospel according to Spiritism, and that is what this is referring to. So this is a sort of new religious movement that was is most popular in Brazil, which makes sense because you're calling from Brazil. That kind of, I mean, everything seems to match up here with what you're talking about as far as like, okay, there's a different sort of view on traditional Christian theology, but there still definitely is a belief in God. And I'm also seeing some other interesting things here, like the belief that mediums can talk to the dead and stuff like that. So there is still some kind of interesting spiritual element. I guess that's why it's called Spiritism. And the thing is, like, I agree with some of your criticisms of traditional Christianity, right? Like, there's definitely some better explanations for what we see, for example, and you started off by saying, hey, Lazarus, hey, there's maybe this is explained by a narcoleptic. I agree. I think a naturalist explanation is probably better for some of the stuff we see. But the difference between your beliefs and what my beliefs are is, look, I apply that to the whole of Christianity. I don't even need to believe that there is a God, right? Why do I have to even start with that? It seems like we kind of start with this presumption that, okay, well, maybe some Christians or Muslims or these other people, they have different ideas, they have different interpretations, but let's get to the real stuff. And I kind of say, well, maybe it's all bullshit from the very beginning. Maybe we don't have to look at the real Christianity, because maybe there is no real Christianity or real God or real God beliefs around it that are more true than others, because maybe there just isn't a God, right? So that's where I think I start off with this. It's just like, hey, all this stuff is kind of predicated on a God even being there in the first place. And if I can't even get that far, I can't get into this other stuff, right?
Yeah, I got it. And I just wanted to put it out there to see your reaction, because it's not only the United States. I wanted to see what you guys think. But here's the thing. It doesn't bother me that you don't believe, actually. Because,
okay, well, that's good. It shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's like yeah, of course. That's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. I'm putting it out there because I have to somewhat wear, not that there are many people here, but somewhat wear a combination of being fluent in English and knowing something about this religion. I just want to put it out there, and not only to preach. I'm not trying to make you believe that. I'm just trying to make people think about that. You or somebody else, because if I told you that you should believe, I would be going against my religion.
Yeah, that makes sense. We appreciate that.
I should believe that.
We appreciate that. You wanted our takes, you want our reactions. We gave you our reactions, right? There you go. Like I appreciate and respect that you may have more progressive ideas of Christianity, that maybe it includes being more accepting of other people and not trying to preach and do stuff like that. I just think that you don't even have to be a Christian or even be spiritual to even have good values either. Like I just think if it's more about, hey, I like that this belief system's anti-hierarchical and like allows me to live independently and do these things, I think you can do that as an atheist even better than a spiritist, because I don't even need a gospel. You can just do what you want.
Perhaps.
But that's my take, right? So
perhaps, but yeah. But let me just say one last thing. Just one last thing. Like to provoke you guys. Your
provoke
moral,
us.
I mean, the speech is actually the humanist actually comes from the Christian morality, but without God. So maybe you can't believe in God now, but some ancestors of yours had to, because it's only Western society that think about tolerance and things like that. It's starting to come out there, but if you for example, in Japan, up to 1945, they believed the emperor, the live emperor, was a god, so he could do anything.
Yeah. So the idea,
but just think about it.
I think it's hard to provoke people with arguments they've heard again and again. In this instance, the idea that atheist morality is somehow borrowed from specifically Christianity is something that, if you're an atheist, you hear a lot. I think it's pretty easy if you read literature throughout time or global literature. That's where I kind of come to this belief, is that people have had very similar feelings about morality throughout time, throughout the world. We love similarly, we feel pain similarly. And our morality is an outgrowth of the fact that we're a social species. We like to be together, we love each other, and we feel pain. And so there's no need to borrow a particular moral system. You mentioned tolerance being something that was specific to Europe. Well, why is tolerance inherently the only morality that we need to be concerned about? I think equality matters too. And I think you saw a lot of calls in Eastern religions or in oftentimes more indigenous religions that focus on things like sharing, like communal welfare. I think those are good things too, and they don't necessarily come from European styles of Christianity. Mm-hmm. So I think we're open to being provoked, but I think that particular argument is one that's pretty easily dispensed with.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, a couple things there. One, there is a common misconception that atheism is a Western development and is a Western idea, and that's like a very Eurocentric idea of thinking, because actually it's as old as Indian philosophy. Like Indians have us beat by centuries when it comes to thinking about this stuff, and it's obviously like, you know, we haven't had that produced in like the modern philosophical consensus until like much later, because mostly when we talk about philosophy, it's pretty much always been what white guys thought about somewhere in Europe. So you know, there's something to consider there, that it's not just a Western idea, right? That it exists by you know, even by that standards. But if you even want to include like just the broad non-belief, that technically goes back even further than like human civilization, right? Because yeah, there's animism and sort of spiritual beliefs that existed amongst humans, but like there's definitely been groups of people that have no God belief, or at least God in the traditional sense kind of belief. So it definitely exists for a long time. Whether or not that leads you to a better outcome morally is a separate question, right? But the truth is, like, you know, there is a conception that morality stems from Christianity, or Christianity and religious constructs in general are the basis of moral foundations. And you know, we've talked about this time and time again, how it's not true, how we can definitely live lives that are moral and, you know, obviously produce outcomes that are good, most traditionally defined as good. Are they consistent? No, but when has religion ever been consistent, right? Like that's just the matter of being a human being and how you sort that out. So anyway, that's enough, I think, from me. But you did say that was the last thing you want to say. I will let you go here, Eduardo, unless you had anything else you want to add before I let you go.
No, I'm gonna. I'll just say. I'm talking about your specific movement. I mean, I know that atheism comes from long ago and all that, but that's the thing. But we learn that when we don't have tolerance, and actually a lesson that we have to learn by pain. When you don't have tolerance, you start to tolerate genocide and things like that. That's why I say that's the most important moral principle.
I mean, I agree. I don't support genocide. I'm also an atheist, so I don't know what you will do with that. But yeah,
I also
listen. Sorry. I'm not saying that because you are an atheist. It's not the provocation that I was going to say is that what led you to the philosophy that you are part today. I'm trying to be careful with my words here. Was I mean, you're specifically your foundation, you know, the secular and church separated from the state, the church separated from the state. It came because of because people started questioning Christianism, you know, the Christianity, because you know, if they, for example, we start to see the Inquisition, and then you go, well, what's that? And
I think
that you don't have.
Let me just clarify. Are you saying that secularism originates from Christianity? I think that's what you're saying, because I disagree with that.
Yeah, but I'm not saying. But I'm not saying that to say that. No, you are wrong. I don't think you might even not be wrong. You might be right about that. But I just think kind of. Okay, I don't know if you and Sofia specifically has that problem, but people don't. Atheists that I talk to don't even acknowledge that. Not even a possibility. I mean, you disagree and all that. But
acknowledge the possibility.
Bother to disagree.
Yeah. So, like the idea that if, you know, there can, I guess I'm happy to say that there can be very moral religious people, and I'm a product of the West, and Christianity had a major impact on the West. I think that those are all things that I can absolutely concede. I think that when we're talking about the idea of like morality, I have found that every step I take away from faith and incorporate non-Western Christian traditions, I find myself living more in tune with other people, with I find myself living with more integrity the further away I step from it. So I think that it's when it's presented as though we have to have been influenced by Christianity to be moral, and that our morals come from that. I think that that's what people start taking issue with. Additionally, I think when we're talking about on a societal level, things like tolerance, every step toward tolerance has been a step away from the church. So I think it's very difficult to say that secularism and that humanism and human rights in general have been something that came from the church, when historically that just isn't true. So I am definitely happy to see that, yep, I'm a product of the West. I have a lot of Christian family members that I consider people who are seeking to do right, and their religion is grounded in European history. Like that's just factually true. It's also factually true that all goodness doesn't come from Christianity.
Yeah, I understand your frustration. I'm going to say this. I'm going to let you go afterwards because I did say I'd let you give one more thing in. But, you brought up an interesting point, but I think is a common criticism that people have, which is like, look, atheists aren't open-minded. Why can't atheists be open-minded towards the spiritual, towards the God, towards all these other things? And the truth is, I am a product of an attempt at open-mindedness. If I had stayed a Christian, by the way, which is the idea that, oh, you have the truth and the life, right? You don't need these other ideas. I mean, that's Christianity's whole thing, is that, look, don't worship these other gods. Don't follow these other paths. Only follow through me. That's not an act of open-mindedness. If I had stayed a Christian, it is my attempt to circumvent that ideology that I have come to the place that I am today, right? And that's not true for all atheists. Some people grow up broadly secular and don't have God beliefs, and that's fine. But like for many of us, that's our reality and that's our choice. Christianity did not promote ideas of open-mindedness and tolerance and exploration. And I think that is the burden that Christians need to understand, that's what they need to follow, not atheists. It's not atheists that need to be more open-minded. It's the religious folks that grew up in the majority religious nations and the majority religious cultures that they grew up in, that they need to learn tolerance and figure out what other people believe, and not just, hey, I need to figure out what the most people, what a third of the planet believes. I know what they believe. I got that, right? Do they know what I believe though, or don't believe? I think that's a harder question for a lot of Christians to actually answer. And I know that you're a different kind of Christian than most Christians, but that's what we broadly talk about, right? We're talking about the majority consensus. But I am letting you go, Eduardo. So thank you for that call.